Oh, but Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer said it was absolutely fine, and I don't know why we're making this an incident.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Office Hours. I'm your host, Michael Wolf. Today in the class, we've got really the professor, KVV, making his first appearance in Office Hours. This feels a little bit like at the end of the school year when your teacher's been wearing jeans all year and just kind of coming in, and then all of a sudden he shows up with the clip-on tie on, and you notice that the principal's in the back of the room just kind of checking on things before they renew the contracts for next year. So welcome to Office Hours. I'm a little nervous having the professor here, but glad to have you in. What I got to ask, you spent 11 years at ESPN. You've won a number of awards. Why are you on Office Hours? What brings you here today?
Well, Wolfie, I love the dumbest parts of golf. I think that it brings out sort of a quirky side of things. So whether it's, the battle at the Bighorn, which I remember well when they lit up the course, or the thing with Annika and Tiger and Duvall and Kari Webb. But one of the things that I've always loved, one of my favorite incidents in the history of golf, is the 1983 Skins game when Tom Watson accused Gary Player of cheating, and Dave Anderson of the New York Times put a little thing about it in his column. It didn't seem like it was going to go, if you could go viral in the day. But when Dave Anderson dropped a note in his column that he heard Tom Watson say, I'm sick of this, Gary. I'm not going to let you get away with it. And it became a big kerfuffle that I still think about every time now, like when they do the ceremonial tee shots at Augusta. Like there has to be this 50 years of tension running through the air between those two. So
come on, KVV, don't tease us. Give it to us. Come on, we want to hear it. Gary, I think I'm not sure. Did you use your rain jacket in that bush to give yourself a better lie than you should have had there?
Oh, but Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer said it was absolutely fine, and I don't know why we're making this an incident. It's absolutely disgraceful that Tom would come at me like this. That leaf was unattached to any stems of all.
A+. There you go. You've already earned your keep. Thank you for that. I'm with you, man. The weirder it gets, the more awkward. I mean, if you're going to put Peter Jacobson in a director's chair watching Greg Norman Jr. hit flop shots, I'm all for it. I mean, sign me up. I will take that over, watching a 72-hole stroke play event in the middle of July. The issue, I think, one of the things I wanted to really talk to you today is we move through some of the events and talk about them is, I think sometimes the PGA Tour in particular likes to have their cake and eat it too, as far as are these exhibits, are the exhibitions, are these serious golf? Should some of these things be awarded FedEx Cup points or, God forbid, official world golf rankings? It didn't seem like a big deal. Now all of a sudden it may be exhibit number 2 in a lawsuit or something. So I'm glad to have you around and maybe a little bit of a voice of reason on some of these things. Would love your opinion. Before we get to any of that though, I got to say the fall, it's the best time of the year for golfing. It's the best time of the year for the golf clothes. That leads me into the sponsor of this, which is Holderness Bourne. I'm wearing my Anderson shirt and I'm wearing my Ward sweater. Neil told me the Ward sweater is the number 1 selling item on the No Laying Up Pro Shop. So as you can see, it's got a little quilted look to it, but not enough to be crazy. It's understated. You can wear this, wear this to your father-in-law's house. You can wear this to, wherever you want. It fits in everywhere. You could wear it, on the course, off the course, wear it to church.
I have the maroon version of that, and it's very crispy. Looks excellent.
Yeah. Couple new colors I just saw came out this week too. So head on over to the Pro Shop and pick up your Ward sweater for the fall, and really even around here at least you can get away with wearing this thing through the winter without a coat, and I like that.
Yeah.
Should we roll it back? Talk a little bit about these?
Yeah. Tell me, Wolfie, how did these events get their start? Like, what is the genesis of these things becoming a reality?
I think it was a couple of factors. TV was definitely one of them, right? You've got the rise of IMG, Mark McCormick, Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus, and just the marketing of it. And I think there was also, the rising popularity of television, 1960s, 1970s. They were looking for inventory. As hard as it is to believe now, football wasn't always the king of television.
That's right.
You probably remember. I mean, the NCAA TV contract, they were only allowed to show 1 game a week. And then eventually it got bumped to 3 games a week and 4 games a week. But a lot of this stuff, around, especially around the holidays, they were looking for just inventory to fill. And as incredible as it seems now, golf did a pretty good job before anybody else in realizing that, like, hey, a lot of people are going to be home the Friday after Thanksgiving. A lot of people are going to be home the weekend after, between Christmas and New Year's, and they're going to be looking for something to watch on television.
Well, they fall asleep in recliners. Yeah.
Yes, right. And so let's market to these people, and the advertisers went along with it because it was a pretty good demographic that would turn into golf. And so that's really how it happened. I think a lot of people will be pretty surprised that it really goes back quite a ways, all the way back to the World Series of Golf, which eventually became the PGA Grand Slam. So World Series of Golf started in 1962. It was a one-day event. It was on Memorial Day, and it was run by the PGA of America, and it was the 4 major championship winners. And if somebody had won 2 majors in one year, then they would fill the extra spot with whoever had the highest combined finishes in the major championships the previous years. It goes all the way back to 1962. Originally, like I say, it was Memorial Day. It kind of transitioned. It moved to Kemper Lake from 1986 to 1990. Then it moved to Poipu Bay, 1994 to 2006. I think that's when I first remember it. As a golf fan, was they would always show it live. They moved it to New Year's Day once they moved it out to Hawaii. And I remember Tiger just beat the shit out of everybody in this thing. He won 7 of them. Most of them weren't even close. I think maybe one of the issues with why this thing isn't around anymore was because they were with only 4 players, and the way they chose the 4 players being the major champions, you could have somebody like Rich Beam that got hot for a week or whatever, and by the time they got around to New Year's Day playing this thing, it was he could throw an 84 on the board, and Tiger shooting 66, or Phil Mickelson in 2004 shoots a 59. There were lots and lots and lots of lopsided results. So but I think World Series of Golf should probably get the credit for being one of the first ones that came along, and really for taking a chance on a little bit of a different format and a different different timing for this thing.
I could see Tiger killing in this format now, like 1 round, just a sort of a silly season course. Like that would be kind of sweet. They could even bring the live guys into this, Wolfie.
Yeah. So the Hero, it began in 2000. The first 13 of them were played at Sherwood out in California. Since 2015, it's been in Albany, down in the Bahamas. It's got 20 players in the field this year. I guess technically it's supposed to be the 4 major championship winners. It's the next top 11 in the OWGR, defending champ, and then Tiger, obviously gets a spot himself, and I think Tiger gets to kind of pick the other 3, even though they're technically called sponsorship spots. But pluses and minuses. I don't know how you feel about this one. Something about this one for me, it's never quite worked. It's big names. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, of all the made-for-TV events and the silly season events, it's always got the best field, but it just never quite clicks for me.
Other than like Patrick Reed, digging sandcastles into the sand, like it doesn't really feel like it's had a lot of memorable moments. Tiger maybe hitting that one shot off his knees that one year. I mean, it's just like, it's kind of just a blah thing, other than like Tiger's only ever story that sort of matters, which I guess speaks to a larger problem in golf in a lot of ways. This
is maybe Exhibit A2 and the whole idea of, we complain all the time that we want different formats. The whole discussion of designated events and there's only 20 guys out there that move the needle. This is a prime example where they've got those 20 guys, but this still isn't really moving the needle. Is it because of the format? Is it because, as viewers, we sense that these guys maybe don't really give a shit as much as, we wish they would when they're playing their what essentially is their friends on tour. You think that they'd want to win this one more than the other ones, but it doesn't come across on television anyway.
Wasn't it this also was the year that Stenson and Spieth played the wrong tees that one time? That was in the Hero. That was other one of the most very funny things that I remember, was just their kind of like discussion about how badly they effed that up. So it's short
Stenson
on
Stenson giving that interview, and then Jordan's standing right next to him, like watching him like he was watching a comedian, like he was waiting for the punchline because he knew it was coming, and then Stenson delivered.
Yes, it was just to go back and reload, and but it was only 2 shots each, so it wasn't a big deal.
And other than
Well, I don't know if you remember when this event got OWGR points, but that's always like the big contention with the live guys of like saying like, oh, limited field, no cuts, whatever. The hero does it, and Solly's explanation I think has always been a good one, is that it took like 20 whatever years for that to kind of unfold. I don't know if you have any insight into sort of that OWGR discussion of whether it's what the hell they're thinking.
They got points for the first time in 2009. So it took them a decade. It is 72 holes of stroke play. You do have to qualify for it. It's 4 guys out of 20, so you won't get the spot. So it's it's only 20% of the field. I don't like that they give everybody gets points all the way to the bottom. That seems a little essentially 3 guys get handpicked who are going to earn world ranking points for doing nothing. I mean, you can finish last place. There's no cut. It's real golf, I guess. As I've said before on different formats, the guys are trying while they're playing golf. How much preparation are they putting in the week or 2 leading up to it, I think is the question.
Back to the World Series of Golf real quick. I see in the notes here that you have a fun fact here that Mike Ditka played in place of Curtis Strange. Please tell me, as a quasi-Bears fan, please tell me all that you know about Mike Ditka playing in this event.
Sure. So the year's 1999. The event is still being held at Kemper Lakes, just outside of Chicago. There's only 4 players in this, and it's being shown on TV. So the difference between a 3-player field and a 4-player field is a problem, not just for the competition, but actually the pace of play and the moving the cameras around and everything. When they're televising these things, folks, obviously, we don't think about it while we're watching, but it's not like a major championship where they got fixed cameras and they're like waiting for the players to show up. They've only got a certain amount of cameras, and they're kind of sprinting to follow the players around. The most famous example of this used to be when they would have the Shell's Wonderful World of Golf matches between like 2 guys, and they'd be playing in Argentina or they'd be playing in Brazil or someplace. They would have one guy would hit a shot, and then they would have to like drive over and set the camera up. And so these matches would take like 8 hours, and they would hit a shot and the camera wouldn't catch it, and the guy would have to re-hit the shot. And so when you're watching the Shell's Wonderful World of Golf, that is not what actually happened that day. They replayed plenty of those shots because like they didn't catch it the first time, or they didn't have a camera in position or whatever.
That seems unfair to let Ben Hogan take 2 cracks at some greens.
It does. So Ditka, 1990. Curtis Strange is battling stomach issues, digestion issues, and apparently it's been a problem all season. It sounds like, in doing some research, this was not like a one-time thing where he agreed to play in this and then he backed out the last second. He was having some genuine problems below the belt.
A little IBF, IBF stuff going on.
So he calls him. He calls the night before or in the middle of the night and says, "I can't do it. I cannot go out in front of a crowd and play golf tomorrow. I can't do that." And so they're struggling to find somebody. It's Chicago. Not a lot of PGA players hanging around Chicago. I guess Jeff Sluman wasn't available, or Fitzy hadn't arrived yet in town.
That's right.
And so they make all the calls, and now the clock's ticking. The crowd's starting to show up, and they got to find somebody. Mike Ditka had come out to the event. He was just there. He's a 6 handicap.
Wow, I mean that's a 6. I would have never guessed that Mike was a 6.
So they asked Ditka, "Do you want to, are you willing to do this?" And Ditka says, "Sure." He's played in pro-ams. He's done this before, so he's not that nervous. In some ways, getting an athlete, or that at least is, foot is not gonna freak out over that stuff. Plus, and maybe not be starstruck. Plus, he's a local, and he's a 1990. He's riding pretty high as far as his reputation in Chicago. So he goes out. He shot 42 on the front 9, picked up a few holes in the back 9, posted a big DNF, no card. But he did it. They asked him, and he did it. So
all right, Wolfie. You mentioned that the hero is 72 holes of stroke play we What other formats have they tried here? Tell me a little bit about some of these other approaches that they've tried to drum up interest during the silly season.
Yeah, so we had the PGA World Cup of Golf, which, like we talked about, is it was just 18 holes. They would show 9 holes each day, but they filmed all 18 in one day. They transitioned that to 2 18-hole rounds That actually just made it more lopsided and gave Tiger a better chance to run away with it. But they have tried some other stuff over the years with different events. If we start kind of at the bottom, one of my favorites, which was just a hot mess, I think, from day one, was the old ADT Skills Challenge. I don't know if you remember this one. So
tell me all about it.
So this was the weekend after Christmas. I think they figured out, hey, we got the skins game. It's a big hit. It's on Thanksgiving. Let's do the same thing and run it back, except during Christmas. Peter Jacobsen, I believe it was his production company that ran this. And for those that don't know, Peter has made a lot of money on the golf course, and he's made a whole lot of money outside the golf course being involved in stuff like this. He won the first two that were held. It was essentially, they had these different skills. So they would have like a long putt and a short putt and longest drive and straightest drive and approach shot closest to the hole. And they would have these different categories, and then you would get points for each category depending on how high you finished. And then I believe there was like a bonus. Like, so if you won a category, you got like a check for $50,000 for winning the category, but you got points, and then you would have like the overall winner. It was supposed to test, in theory, like who had the best overall game. In reality, it was just a chance to get like 8 guys together. My favorite part about it was when they put them on these director's chairs, so they're like their feet couldn't touch the ground because most of these guys are like 5'9". It's like, it wasn't until you saw that you realized, like, oh yeah, some of these guys are really short. Including Greg Norman was much smaller on the director's chair than you thought he was going to look.
Yeah.
They put their names on the back of the director's chairs. The other thing that this thing exposed, like, you realize, for me, like as a kid watching this for the first time, other than that was pretty quickly obvious it was a money grab, was like how unfunny these guys are, or like how in the right environment, like playing in a pro-am with people that are excited to play with them, they can be entertaining. When they're telling golf stories to golfers, I think it's pretty entertaining. When they're trying to be like funny, they're not entertaining, and maybe they think they are, or they're used to people laughing at their jokes. But that was always the main takeaway for me, was how bad like the pitter patter was. When they weren't walking and they weren't talking about golf shots, but they were just like making small chat while they're waiting for the next skills challenge to be set up. It's what makes me worried about this evening football league that Tigers, or golf league that Tigers formed, where they're going to hit balls into the screen and all that stuff. To me, they've promised some pretty cool technology type stuff, but they got to find a way to keep our attention span. And is it just running in Peyton Manning and Charles Barkley and getting people that are funny to carry it, or how's that going to work?
Say what you will about Phil, like Phil was right, Phil was wrong, this and that. Nobody's ever been like better at selling this BS than Phil. Like, he is the ultimate pro-am person. He's the ultimate silly season. Like, hey, I'm going to play with Tom Brady or Peyton Manning or whoever, and I'm going to give just enough ribbing and just enough weird, like, kind of watch this is for you in a workday kind of comments that it's a shame that Phil can't be involved in these going forward.
Okay, let me give you some fun. We can't get out of the skills challenge without some fun facts. So they started to struggle. It turned into a mule fest. It was Peter Jacobsen and essentially his friends. Shark was really the one that kind of was, the biggest name that would have anything to do with this, I think. They started bringing in non-golfers. Most famously, Mark McGuire in 2003 shows up. He wins the longest drive, 319 yards in 2003. Good on Mark McGuire. And by the way, he was the only.
Clearly, Watto was not overseeing this competition, Wolfie.
Yeah, he was the only non-golfer in the field. So he beat 7 guys in longest drive. My other fun fact, Greg Norman, his partner that he chose in 2008, when you could bring a partner or you could bring a caddy, you could bring your caddy with you. It was supposed to be like all the caddies like LaCava and all these guys. Norman, no. He brings his son, Greg Jr. This is 2008. Jr. wins the event for his dad by hitting the short iron approach, which is the last category. He hits a shot to 1 inch, and the Norman and Norman win the 2008 ADT Skills Challenge. My other favorite fun fact from this event, Rocco, he brings his caddy, Matt Atchez. Matt chips in, holes out the bunker shot to help Rocco win it. They win 4 out of 8 events. and they win like $230,000. And Rocco pays his caddy the normal 10%. So they don't split it 50-50. He just like gives him he's like, well, you're the caddy. Like, you get 10%. Like, you wouldn't be here if you weren't my caddy. So like, you're getting the caddy money, not the golfer money, despite the fact that it was Mr. Atches that holed out the bunker shot in one.
Rocco's got some alimony to pay, I think. Maybe a second condo that he's leveraged on. He needs to make sure he takes care of his budget.
We've also got so getting to kind of a little bit closer to relevance, I guess. Another one that they would always have was the Shark Shootout. Speaking of Greg Norman, the Shark Shootout was it was a 2-man event. It was different formats as far as the scoring and things like that. They switched it around a lot. This actually ran a long time. It ran like 33 years. It was only called the Shark Shootout for a little while. I always thought it was like that was always the name, but I guess Norman was not involved all that much. It was I guess for like a decade he was involved, but after the WGC issues, he was shuffled out.
The branding was just too strong to keep calling it the Shark Shootout.
Yeah, something like that. It was at Sherwood. It was another one that was at Sherwood from 89 to 99. It was 3 days, 54 holes. It had partners. This is another one where, obviously this event has kind of transitioned to what today is the Zurich down in New Orleans with points and everything. But even the Zurich, even with giving the FedEx Cup points, to me, there's still something missing with, they do the alternate shot. They alternate between alternate shot and best ball. Still not catching on. I don't know why, but as I love golf. I like the PGA. I love golf. I like the PGA Tour. This is one of those for me that, in theory, I should like, but it just doesn't have my attention span. And I don't know if that's the participants or why, but I don't know how you feel about that one. But this is one to me that just never quite got there.
Yeah, I always wondered if maybe they could do it like the LPGA Crown thing, where it's like divided up into countries, and maybe there'd be some sort of allegiance for each squad that you could find yourself. I want to root for South Korea. Or I want to root for South Africa or Australia or the United States in this. If you're listening, Jay Monahan, like taking ideas, I'm sure I'm high on your list of people you want to listen to, but that would be my push.
All right. Well, let's jump over then and talk about the other event on the PGA Tour calendar that's still on there. Speaking of Jay Monahan listening, or at least somebody, they've called for a long time. We've asked for it. We've always said, mixed event with men and women. They used to have one. Why don't they have one? They're going to try it again this year. They're going to run it back. So first time in quite a while, we're going to have it's going to be called the Grant Thornton from December 8th through December 10th. It's 16 teams of one guy, one girl, PGA Tour, LPGA, co-sanctioned, I guess you would say, or co-blessed. Seems pretty interesting. $4 million purse. It's going to be played down at Tiburon, which is another one of those that it seems like Tiburon is always involved one way or another with some of this stuff. The format this year, it's going to be Friday is going to be a scramble, Saturday is going to be alt shot, and Sunday is going to be modified 4-ball.
Okay. Now, when they say a scramble, what are we talking about? Scramble here? This isn't like when I play with my buddies at scramble where we
it is. Yeah. So they're both gonna hit tee shots. They're gonna pick which one they want to play. They're both gonna hit second shots. They're gonna pick which one of those. They're gonna put the little tee down and both putt from the same spot. So
wow, I didn't even know this was possible in professional events. I'm excited about that.
This actually, so we'll back up a little bit. Mixed events started all the way back, the JCPenney Classic, all the way back in 1960. I didn't realize it went back. I knew of it, but I didn't know it went back that far until doing some research for this. So it began in 1960. It lasted in one form or another all the way through 1999. So almost 40 years that there was a co-sanctioned event between the two tours. Most famously probably was Tiger did play in it. 1996, that fall, he played in it with Kelly Cooney. Little fun fact for you. Any idea who won in 96? Tiger and Kelly Cooney did not win.
Oh, 96. I do not know. Who would that be?
Mike Hulbert and Donna Andrews captured the 1996 JCPenney. Yeah.
Wow, Tiger must still be stewing over that one.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would love to have Tiger dropping Mike Hulbert references. And well,
Yeah.
Mike Hulbert, he really beat me up
Chase
that
him
one
down.
time.
Yeah. Another little
Killing, I
fun
just
fact.
couldn't make any putts. Just couldn't make any
Yeah.
putts.
Another little fun fact for you about the original JCPenney Classic. Only one team ever won it twice. Davis Love and Beth Daniel. They teamed up 2 different times to win. Scrolling through it, I mean, this never really had the biggest big names of like Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, those type guys. It had decent fields. It would kind of ebb and wane. It definitely seemed like the ladies were into it more than the men were, as far as wanting the exposure and stuff like that. It was always tape delayed when they showed it, so that probably didn't help things either. But it'll be interesting to see, that it didn't work the first time around. Has enough time passed and enough things changed in the world of golf from 1999 to now to make it work?
All right. Well, if we bring us full circle, I want to talk about the skins game just at the end here, just because I brought it up in the beginning. What
Yeah,
was the skins game just a cash grab for like the olds? I remember. I feel like I remember Lee Trevino and like Freddie Couples cleaning up in skins games over the course of my young life. My dad was always like, "Oh, watch this! This putt's worth $100,000," which seemed
yeah.
like an insane amount of money back when I was just starting to get into golf.
Yeah, so your memory's right on Freddie Couples. So Skins Game was around from 1983 to 2008. It had a great format, right? It was pretty easy to understand, and it was also like, I think, like, it was the right time and the right place. So it was always on Thanksgiving weekend that they showed it. The NFL always kind of deferred a little bit on that weekend, I think, to where like that was when a lot of the big college games were. And so if you weren't necessarily a fan of Alabama or Auburn or Ohio State or Michigan, it gave you something else to watch, especially kind of late afternoons. And I think it really just kind of struck gold too in the timing, right? It was like those early ones, like in 1983, 84, 85. I mean, it was Jack Nicklaus, it was Tom Watson, Arnold Palmer, and they were still good enough that as long as they were playing against each other, they looked like pro golfers, and they weren't really playing against guys that were driving it 50 yards past them.
Right.
So it was kind of inspired, I think. It was also, the format was pretty easy to explain, like to your mother or to your aunt who was like helping cook the mashed potato, bake the pie for Thanksgiving dinner, and you were kind of ducking in and out and watching a little bit of a time. It was really easy to explain to people how it worked. Your memories are correct. Freddie Couples dominated this thing. He made 11 appearances. He won 77 skins and $4.4 million. And those are all like high water marks in the 25 years. Little fun fact for you. Best year that anybody ever had. Greg Norman, 2001, he won all 18 skins.
Oh, wow.
All $1 million. He got all 18 of them in 2001. That was the year that they tried like a validation type rule. By 2001, they were fiddling a little bit with the rules and trying to keep it relevant. And that year you had to validate your skin. So if you won a skin, I think you had to at least make a par on the next hole, or you had to give back all your skins. That may have played a role in it. But yeah, the Great White Shark swimming in deep waters, 2001. He wins all 18 skins. My other thing that I remember about this was that Tiger was always terrible in them. He was. It seemed like in some of the other formats he could either just because of his competitiveness or whatever, but whether it was the format or the other guys kind of needling him a little bit, or just whatever it was, he played in 6 of them and he was bad in all 6. And some of the ones he played at too were kind of while he was at the peak of his powers. And it just seemed like his the switch was not turned on for Tiger for these. So,
well, I will forever love bringing up the Gary Player Tom Watson incident, in particular because the Tom Watson's actual quote, which I'm reading from the Washington Post, recounting it was, "I'm accusing you, Gary. You can't do that. I'm tired of this." As if though perhaps Gary Player's reputation was playing a factor in Tom Watson watching him closely. Gary won $150,000 that day, which was the biggest payout of his career. Shows you how different money was back in the day. So
it's fascinating with those guys. I mean, especially kind of with the IMG and Mark McCormick, and I mean they had to travel together so much to play exhibitions. That those guys were such big names compared to everybody else in the sport, I think, and they traveled the world together and had to spend a lot of time, not just at major championships, but a lot of silly events in one-day exhibitions and stuff. And, they had to be, I guess, friendly like on the surface level, but because you can't, but yeah, apparently some animosity behind the scenes. So great stuff
Awesome.
there. I think it'll be interesting. It's something to do, right? It's it's this is probably for sickos only, some of this stuff, but it's fun to see. It's also maybe a little revealing of what some of these guys are like, away from their standard, like I say, 72-hole tour life, same events every week. Chance to see some different courses, and you got to kill some time somehow before the football comes on. So
for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
so that's what we got coming up.
Thank you for the trip down memory lane.
Good stuff. Well, KVV, thanks for coming by and adding some gravitas to this classroom.
Wow, I don't know about that, but thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to, I love these look backs through history kind of strolls. So thank you for leading the way, Professor.
Well, come back soon, and thank you again to Holderness and Bourne. We appreciate it. Those are guys that are not silly. The stuff that they make is fantastic, and we appreciate all their support this season. So we're looking forward to a good, interesting, and maybe a little silly end of the year. Thanks, everybody, for watching.